This is a reading for the three card spread challenge, and this is actually challenge number 8. Now, there's been a bit of a gap between challenge number 7 and challenge number 8. Main reason for that is my kids got sick and lovingly shared that cold with me, and I pretty much had completely lost my voice, so it's hard to do a video when you don't have a voice to speak on. So my voice is almost back, so we're back at the challenges here. So the topic or the questions, the spread that we got that came up was the context of the situation, where we need to focus, and the outcome. Now, because this is pertaining to a specific situation, and today is November 8th, Election Day in the USA. I don't live in the US myself, I'm in Canada, but I figured that's where everybody's looking right now. Why not use the spread and see what the cards have to say about the current situation in the States right now with the election? So for this reading, I have used the Gilded Tarot deck. And this is a 3-card spread, but we also had a jumper. So before I get started, I would just like to do a quick prayer. I call upon my angels and my guides to please provide a clear and accurate reading. I also call upon Archangel Michael to please surround me in white light so that only divine messages may come through. Perfect. So the first card that we got was the context of the situation. And for this card, we've got the Seven of Wand reversed. So now Wand normally talks about action. And the Seven of Wand reversed talks about backing down, being powerless, fighting for the wrong things. Well, I think this is an amazing card to describe pretty much any election, really. We definitely talk about voting and having a voice, but I find that is still somewhat limited because, we are voiced between A and B, and maybe what we think is or should be happening is C or D. So it's really limited voice, but I mean, that being said, it's very important to vote. What little voice we do have, we should utilize for sure. With this particular election, I also think fighting for the wrong thing kind of really talks about this situation. For one thing, let's look at Donald Trump. This is a gentleman who is a business owner. He's been in the public eye, but has never had to be concerned about whether he was liked or not. As a business owner, he knows what needs to happen, he knows what needs to be done, and he works towards those goals regardless of whose feathers gets ruffled along the way. Now, as a politician, we're looking at a whole different situation because regardless of what the competence, the skills, it really comes down to popularity. Is this a likable person? Is this somebody that's appealing to the masses? Because that's what really gets them in the end. I mean, have a look at our Prime Minister in Canada with Justin Trudeau. Definitely has some kind of appeal there, and I'm sure that's what got him in. But so kind of really fighting for like all the wrong things here. The next card that we have, this one is where we need to focus. And for this one here, we have the Page of Pentacles reversed. So now the Page of Pentacles reversed talks about being on focus, on discipline, unorganized, materialistic, and clutter. So it's kind of saying where we should be paying attention is like the whole mess that this is. Now, because this is the page normally talks about individual, and the page talks about, I like to see my royals as from page would be a child or childish-like outview or attitude, to the knight being more like an adolescent, the queen being more mature and then they can be more wise, right? Well, this whole situation here we're looking at is definitely on the childish end. These are people, being at the very beginning of this thing, being childish or not knowing what they're doing. I feel this card really again talks about Trump because I feel that Hillary has been groomed and manipulated into being in the role that she is in now her whole entire life. So I don't visualize her being so much as a page in this whole ordeal, but Trump definitely is out of his element. And though this is kind of saying, where do we need to focus on Trump and then on focus on discipline and organized materialistic mess that this is all happening. And I think what it's kind of saying is he has such a clumsy way about it, about his campaign. He's so clumsy about it because this is not what he does. This is not what he's been groomed and trained to do. But if we look past all this clutter, his feelings or his motivations might be good. I remember when I first saw, it was on Facebook that Donald Trump would be running for president. Now, of course, I dismissed it as a joke and as a Facebook random thing on there. And then I saw a video where Trump was talking about it, and then they was asking him, why do you want to run for president? And Trump said, don't get me wrong, I don't want to run for president, but I feel that I must. Now, on a business side of view, when you look at the country almost on a business side and you start to look at the things that's been happening. Now, keep in mind, I am an investor. I also work for a company that trains people in becoming investors. So I have maybe more of a business numbers crunching type of view on things. But what happened in 2008 in the United States was wrong. The economy in the States has been manipulated that it's not anymore like about working hard and getting a good income, because even when you do that and you do what they're telling you to do and you save your money, and I'm getting a bit of a rant and I'm kind of getting a side note here, but how many people lost their retirement in 2008 because key figures that had control took care of themselves only, not as the nation as a whole. They took care of themselves first and only, and the people of the country suffered because they had no voice. So, and I think it's those type of situation where when Donald first decided to run for the country that he said, I don't want to be president, but I must because the nation has lost its voice. And I think this kind of was saying where to focus on, just because it talks about the page for somebody who's definitely doesn't have the experience in this element. And to me, that's Trump. He doesn't have the experience in this situation. This is not what he was grew up and trained himself to do. But would it be bad for the country to be run as a business? I don't know. I don't know if we'll find out either. The last card that we got is the outcome. So for the outcome, we've got the Knight of Pentacles. So now, again, the Knight, there's a royalty, talks about an adolescent excitement, high action type of person. So whoever's getting into it, there's going to be pumped, there's going to be kind of going into it. Based on this card, I still kind of think it might be Trump. Just because I see, and it's my opinion, and don't dislike me for this, but I see Hillary more as a puppet. Because she was such a big group around her that I don't think it's really her taking all the action. She's doing as she's been trained and told to do by her supporters, and she's doing what she's been, kind of groomed to do. So I don't view her as a knight in this whole situation. So the outcome, I mean, we'll find out tonight. I see Trump possibly. But the Knight of Pentacles talks about loyal, dependable, practical, hardworking, cautious, attention to details. I don't know if this describes Trump. I don't know him personally, but definitely as a business owner, and he is an amazing business owner. Um, that's what we're all about, the details, the numbers, being, and with the his reasoning for running for president in the first time does talk about loyalty to his country. But we'll definitely see what's going to happen. This is going to be definitely an interesting day. Um, but also want to point out that the what we need to focus on and the outcome, both cards are Pentacle, which talks more about the materialistic side of things, which honestly I think um, elections really is all about. It's about like the decision of what's going to be happening to run the country and that sort of stuff. So yeah, definitely should be interesting. We'll see if my outlook on these cards is true. Now we had a jumper. And the jumper we had here was the Page of Sword. I'd normally look at jumpers as special messages that the cards are trying to get our attention to. The jumper talks about rebel without a cause, conformist, afraid to speak up malicious words, misunderstanding, trouble with words and truth, misunderstandings, mixed messages, not being able to express your thoughts clearly. Could someone be lying, or could someone be lying to themselves? Now, this is an election. Of course, most people are lying, is my feelings on it. I mean, we know like, um, there's been lies that's been exposed again and again and again. But it talks about speaking without thinking and hurting someone's feeling. I think the one who could be most to blame for that will be Donald Trump. Donald Trump has never been a person who's had to watch his words and think ahead of the impact of what they would do, because as the boss of his own business, he did as he pleased. The only important thing he had to concentrate on was the outcome of the deals or for the business. Like as I mentioned earlier, it didn't matter which feathers got ruffled, but there's been some ruffled feathers. I think every group has had to deal with ruffled feathers. He's been amazing at insulting or hurting the feelings of every group of people. But I think if we look beyond that, because of the awkwardness of how the message are being delivered, we're missing the message that's behind it. And I think that's what this card is telling us. Now, this is a very controversial reading, and obviously my opinion is kind of coming up on this. I don't know if Donald Trump's the best option for the USA. I don't know if Hillary Clinton is as well. Or I think probably neither are the best option, but I feel one is a puppet, and I feel one is going to be very extreme. Donald Trump talked about having the Federal Reserve go through an audit at one point throughout through the past few months or year or so. Now, and I think those are dangerous words to kind of put out there in the public. And I remember talking with other investors, about the Federal Reserve. Now, as you may or may not know, the Federal Reserve is privately owned. It has nothing to do with the U.S. government, yet they're the one who controls the entire economy of the country, of the U.S. and the world, because U.S. dollar being the standardized currency of the world. So for that to be privately owned, and should the Federal Reserve have an audit? You betcha. Will they allow that to happen? Not a chance in heck. And I remember talking with some of my investors and trainers with our friends that I have, and somebody had mentioned if Donald Trump does get into office, he'd be done. He'd be dead within 3 years, because there's no way the Federal Reserve would allow an audit to be performed, and that he would be assassinated, just as JFK had been when he started trying to privatize or to abolish the Federal Reserve, as well as the many other. Now this is digging into a bit of a conspiracy theory, um, but I'm of the belief that Rothschilds will not allow it. And so if Donald Trump does get into office, it might be short-lived for that reason alone. Um, so yeah, I may never do a reading that's this controversial because I don't know how many ruffles I have managed to feathers I've managed to ruffle. And this is not my intention, but I did enjoy doing this reading. It was kind of neat to see what the cards came up. I don't know how accurate the cards are going to be because I don't know that I meant to have an opinion on this matter. I'm not from that country. I feel that regardless of my thoughts of decision, or people's thoughts of decisions, our voices are very small anyways. Um, but and those that are voicing their opinions loud and clear may be misleaded anyways. So should be interesting. Definitely I'll be watching to see what happens with our neighbors to the south. I'd love to see if you do this reading on this topic as well.